In this video, you'll learn my thoughts on whether you should work with your wife or significant other on your business. And I'll also cover some strategies on how to work with your wife without killing each other. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell button to be notified when new videos come out. Now, recently in a podcast interview, I was asked a question that took me off guard. Steve, do you recommend working together on a business with your spouse or significant other? And here's the thing, starting and running a successful business is enough of a challenge as is, but when you add working with your spouse into the mix, you potentially have a recipe for disaster. Now, at first glance, starting a business with your significant other might appear like the ideal situation. After all, you have the rare opportunity to work with someone whom you implicitly trust. You know their strengths, their weaknesses, and that their interests are directly in line with your own. And the rewards can be great, but when things go wrong, you can potentially ruin both your marriage and your business. Now, even though my wife and I get along really well, working with her on the business has been extremely challenging. So for example, my wife and I never used to fight at all before we launched our online store. Never. But over the past 14 years, we've had some pretty bad, mentally draining fights. And the sad part is that we kept fighting all the time until we finally figured out a strategy on how to work together effectively. Basically, I shut up and started agreeing with whatever she said. Anyway, if you're even remotely thinking about working together with your significant other, or even someone who you live with, here are some tips that worked for us. So tip number 1, we divided up the responsibilities. Now, one of our biggest problems early on was that we both tried to do everything ourselves and constantly clashed over key decisions. So for example, my wife and I constantly argued about what products to carry and what look and feel we wanted for our online store. Did we want it to appear sophisticated or casual and fun? Did we want to start off with only a limited product selection, or did we want to open our business with a comprehensive array of items? What were our customer support policies? How quickly did we want to launch the store? And we just kept stepping on each other's toes and even worked on redundant tasks in the beginning, since we each had our own ideals of how we wanted the business to be run. And ultimately, after a bunch of fights, we decided that it was best to divide up the decision-making power and the responsibilities. Basically, each person would have full control in their given domain, but suggestions would be taken into consideration. Now, since weddings, we run a wedding lens business. Since weddings were my wife's passion, I reluctantly agreed that she should be in charge of determining which products to carry and the general look and feel of the store. And she had a finance background too, so it also made sense for her to handle all of the numbers. Now, me, having a technical background, I was in charge of creating the website and implementing all the logistics pertaining to the customer experience. So basically, I had final say in most of the web design decisions and PPC marketing campaigns. And my wife focused on working with vendors and deciding which products to sell. Now, we still had our fair share of arguments, but we managed to defer decision-making responsibility to whomever was in charge of their respective area. Now, the next tip was that we set aside separate workspaces. So not only did my wife and I clash over decision-making, we also physically got in each other's way around the office. And in the beginning, we only devoted a single room to the business, because after all, in the beginning, we were actually running it out of our house. And logistics behind this decision was that we thought that being in the same room would foster communication and facilitate open discussion and productivity. Yeah, right. Don't even think that in the future. The problem was that the space was so small that the only thing we fostered was arguments. Our respective workspaces were so tight that we literally ran into each other on a constant basis. And this caused unnecessary frustration because we both felt extremely claustrophobic. In fact, I remember this one particular fight where I accidentally rolled back in my chair and ran over some important documents that were on the floor behind me. Now, the documents weren't ruined, but they did have a faint wheel tread imprinted on them where I had backed up my chair. And my wife got really pissed off because she felt the documents were now too dirty to send out. And I was mad because she shouldn't have been putting such important papers on the floor directly behind my chair. Anyway, you get the picture. In the end, we decided to set aside separate work areas for each other. Basically, this is a euphemism for I got kicked out of the office. Okay, so the next tip is we set aside some time to hang out. Now, it's very easy to get caught up in your business and forget about everything else. So simple questions like how are you feeling today or how was your day were forgotten and replaced with Hey, did you show out the order to the customer on time? Or did you contact those vendors? Did you remember to buy the packaging materials? So we were so obsessed with the business that at one point, I had absolutely no idea what was going on in my wife's life for a period of several weeks. And the last straw that broke the camel's back was when I completely forgot about a dinner appointment that my wife and I had planned with a good friend of hers that she really wanted me to meet. And at that point, I realized that we needed to cut back on the business and focus more on our relationship and our marriage again. So we came up with a schedule where we dedicated time slots just to hang out. So no talk of the business was allowed, and we tried to plan activities that were interactive and fun. Now, setting aside this time also provided the necessary stress relief required to recharge our batteries and renew our spirits. So my wife turned into a wife again and not just a coworker. Now, the next tip is that we started listening to each other more. One of the biggest problems in the beginning was that we were both too opinionated about certain aspects of the business. There was my way of doing things and her way of doing things, and no in between. And when we discussed our plans of action with each other, we didn't really listen. And what made things worse was the fact that we knew how to push each other's buttons all too well. So here's a hypothetical conversation. Honey, I would like to organize our inventory this way. I don't think that your way is the most efficient way. Why don't we try this way? Can I just do things my way? This is how I want to handle our inventory, okay? All right, fine. But are you going to organize them as well as you organize your desk? I mean, can you even see your desk under that pile of junk? When was the last time you were able to maintain any sort of organization? Well, last time I checked, I organized our wedding. But you're right, perhaps that was a big mistake. Ouch, that hurt. In any case, one thing started getting out of control. We sat down and had a long talk. And the outcome of our discussion was that we agreed to make an active effort to not interrupt each other and pay more attention. And it's amazing how well two people can get along by just listening. It's really amazing. Now, the next tip is we came up with a childcare strategy. Now, just when things related to the business started getting under control, our newborn daughter turned our world completely upside down. We could no longer devote the same amount of time to the business, and we had to constantly cater to her every whim. Now, this was probably the most challenging time for our business because we were first-time parents and had absolutely no clue. And to get around the demanding needs of our daughter, my wife and I took turns taking care of her while the other person worked on the business. We also hired babysitters and enlisted friends and family to help us out as well. And all of this turmoil could have been avoided had we planned ahead. Frantically trying to find childcare right at the moment when you need it is actually very stressful. And so if you are expecting a child or have children of your own, make sure you plan ahead, work out a schedule, and hire the necessary help way in advance. Now, the next tip is we always forgave each other. Sometimes inappropriate things are said in the heat of an argument, and it's important to give each other the benefit of the doubt and forgive. Wait till you both have cooled down and then talk about it. So over time, my wife and I become masters of forgiveness, and I think this has made our relationship even stronger. And ironically, my wife got mad at me for making this video because I didn't consult her before posting it. However, I'm sure everything will be all good once I point out this last paragraph to her. So back to the million-dollar question. Should you work on your business with your wife? Now, if I had to give you a yes or no answer, I'd probably say no. Because when you are married with children, there are enough stresses in your life that you share together already. And adding a business to the mix is like having another child. But as long as you keep things separate and maintain your own boundaries, you can definitely make it work. But be prepared for some fighting ahead. Hope you enjoyed this video. Now, if you like what you saw, there's actually a lot more where that came from if you subscribe to my channel below. And if you are interested in learning how to sell physical products online, then click over here and take my free 6-day mini course where I'll walk you through everything that you need to know to get started in e-commerce. Thanks for watching.